right, so this is our 2020 Corona edition NFL season preview.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we're in some unforeseen circumstances that may produce some quite, a very difficult to predict NFL season, but we're going to go over our thoughts and, see how poorly we do in this unusual season.
Absolutely. It's the Chaz and Cavs pod, Volume 3.
Volume 3, baby.
All right.
First season preview. I got the brew cracked. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going. All right. Do you want to start with the AFC East and then make our way through the rest of the AFC?
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right.
So to start off with the AFC East, this is a division I felt relatively comfortable about the general order, but not very comfortable picking a division winner, because who wants to go against the dynasty that is the New England Patriots, who have owned this division for the last not one but 2 decades. We have not seen a new division winner, but it looks like it could be a changing of the guard this year, and I have the Bills at 10-6 winning this division.
Yeah, me too. I have the exact same prediction with the Bills at 10-6. Although, while I do think the Patriots will be a good team this year and will produce a winning record, I just think their extreme roster turnover will be ultimately be the reason that the Bills take this division with one more projected win over the Patriots.
Yeah, I have the exact same. I have the Pats at 9-7 as well.
Yeah.
And again, that's not a prediction I really feel that comfortable with, because when a team has that much turnover, it's really hard to project when they have almost an entirely different roster, all the way from starting quarterback to a completely revamped, you could say a much worse front seven that dominated last year. But I want to talk about the Bills first. So putting the Bills at 10-6, Sean McDermott has proven himself to be quite a quality NFL head coach. And let's be honest, the Bills have quite the roster going into 2020. They had the best pass defense in the league over the last 2 years, and improving young studs in the front seven in Ed Oliver and Tremaine Edmonds. I personally don't buy Josh Allen as an MVP candidate. I know you don't either, but that's not why this projection is here. Their defense looks poised for a top 5 finish across the board this season, and with a run-first offense, game-controlling approach, I could see back-to-back double-digit win seasons for the Bills.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. While I think Josh Allen could definitely take a step up this year and improve from last year, I don't see him taking such a big leap that he enters into the kind of elite young quarterback conversation with the likes of the Deshaun Watsons, the Lamar Jacksons, the Patrick Mahomes even of the NFL. I don't see him getting to that level, but I think he's good enough to complement this extremely talented roster. In my eyes, easily a top 10 roster in the NFL. And they, last year, you could tell that they really needed kind of another stud wide receiver to complete this offense and to really take a lot of the pressure off Josh Allen so that he didn't have to make so many plays. And they got that in Stephon Diggs, one of the most talented wide receivers in the NFL. So I think while he may not dominate statistically like he has in the past seasons of his career, I think he'll really open up this offense and allow them to be a lot more creative. And I think the addition of Zach Moss basically will replace what Frank Gore gave them this last year, and may even provide more of a playmaker than what Frank Gore was. So I think him, along with Devin Singletary, as you said, provides a perfect backfield for the approach that I think they're going to take on the offensive side of the ball. And of course, on the defensive side of the ball, they're just filled with young playmakers. So I agree. I think this team is going to be very good and could potentially even reach the 12-win mark if Josh Allen does improve at least a little bit from last year.
Yeah, I agree. And my next note here actually was to say that if they had any of those young guys that you named in Watson or Jackson, I'd have no hesitation whatsoever in giving this team a projected 12 wins, because they are that good all around, and I feel comfortable enough with 10 because it's clear that they realize what Josh Allen's deficiencies are and how to utilize him the best possible and getting a true separation wideout like Stephon Diggs to complement John Brown and Cole Beasley there. So Bills at number 1, Pats at number 2. So as we said, the Pats are an interesting team this year. Unlike almost every other year where they've been an easy 11 to 13 win projections, Tom Brady is gone, but that's not the reason they're this low. They lost a lot of players in free agency and opt-outs, and this is a much different team we're seeing going into this year. And I think it's safe to say for both of us, if they had any other coach not named Bill Belichick, this is a 500 or below win team.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, without Belichick, I'd probably put them at around between 4 to 6 wins and be pretty comfortable saying that. But when you have the greatest coach of all time, that obviously brings a lot of advantages. And I think his system will find a way to make these guys work. I just think the talent is a bit too limited for me to realistically see them winning 10-plus games. But with the coach that they have and the roster situation that they have, I think 9 wins is plausible. I mean, realistically, this is a pretty weak division. Still, I don't think the Dolphins or the Jets are taking any big steps this year. So at least within the division, I could see the Patriots splitting games with the Bills, sweeping the Jets, and are at least splitting with the Dolphins. So I think that'll be advantageous to them, and I'm interested to see how Cam Newton's going to do. I'm not expecting big things. I don't think he's going to be terrible. I think we'll see something in the realm of 3,200 passing yards, maybe like 20 touchdowns, and 6 to 10 interceptions.
Maybe 20 interceptions.
Maybe 20 interceptions. Who knows? But I think they'll really play to his strengths, which in reality is his mobility, his strength, and the short passing game. I don't think they're going to make things complicated for him at all because when he plays risky, that's when he tends to be turnover prone. We saw that in his years in Carolina. But he is good enough that he can make this offense work.
Yeah, for sure. And I completely agree. And on a similar notion, since Belichick has been the coach of the Patriots, he's gone 13-6 without Brady starting, including an 11-5 season with Matt Castle.
Yeah.
But the difference there is that Matt Castle was thrown to a prime Randy Moss and Wes Welker, and Cam Newton has the luxury of throwing to a second-year N'Keal Harry and 35-year-old Julian Edelman. So it's definitely, as you said, not the same situation with the talent level there. And this is definitely going to be a testament to Bill Belichick as a coach, Josh McDaniels as a coordinator, and this organization to see how they can maintain with that core gone.
For sure. So moving on, I have the Dolphins in third at 6-10. How about you?
Yeah, me too.
Okay,
exactly.
Yeah. So my thoughts on the Dolphins are that they, surprised a lot of people by actually winning more than 2 or 3 games last year. In the back half of 2019-2020, I think Brian Flores showed that he has the potential to be a very good coach and that he clearly can get his guys that want to play for him to perform at or above their level. So I think with they added a lot of pieces in free agency. I'm looking at Byron Jones, one of the best young corners in the NFL. Kyle Van Noy is a very solid veteran linebacker that's used to the Patriots' defensive system, so I think he'll fit in well there in Miami. And then, of course, Matt Breida and Jordan Howard as running backs, which individually isn't great, but they can work well as a kind of committee backfield. And also Austin Jackson, the rookie, and Noah, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name, the cornerback.
The Auburn corner. Yeah,
Auburn corner. So they definitely filled a lot of holes. I just don't think this roster is complete enough to realistically win more than 6 games. The offensive line will most likely project to be one of the worst in the league, even with the addition of a new offensive tackle. So just because of the talent deficiency, I don't think this team is going to be overall that great. I think they're going to be pretty mediocre to below average. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And the Dolphins are in a bit of an interesting spot because, as you said, they did make a lot of quote-unquote win-now moves this offseason. They were big spenders in free agency, which is interesting because, you know, they're not really there. They're not at the point. They're still developing this young core. I could see the Dolphins overachieving this year. I think it's possible. I think Flores has a good system in place with this team. But, I mean, it really depends. I mean, how many games is Fitz going to start compared to Tua? When is Tua going to come in? There's a lot of questions around this team. And when it's questions, especially involving a young core and a rookie quarterback, I feel like it's a safe projection to put them around 6-10. And I'd be quite surprised if they made it to 500 this year.
Yeah, for sure. So the last place team for the both of us then would be the New York Jets. I actually have them at 3-13, which is well below their projected wins of 6.5. What do you have them going this year?
Oh my. Okay. So I put them at 5-11.
Okay.
I actually bumped that up from 4-12. I'm not too sure why I bumped them up from 4-12. Because I think, you know, it's hard. It's hard because, you know, getting only 3 wins, it's difficult. It's a difficult feat, right? You have to be both bad and unlucky. It doesn't happen very often. But Adam Gase is one of the few coaches that we'll talk about today that I would classify into the Hugh Jackson effect, which is essentially a coach that both underachieves and underperforms his team year in, year out, and produces a worse record than you would expect. So you're on the Jets under clearly. Mm-hmm. I like the Jets under. I'm not sure if I'm betting it this season because I do still like Sam Darnold. I'm holding out a little bit of hope, but man, this roster looks ugly and their coaching is not any better.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, part of the reason why I have them so low is I just looked at their schedule and they have a lot of hard games. I mean, they have to play Buffalo twice a year. They play San Francisco, the Colts. They play the Chiefs. They play the Seahawks. They play the Browns. Like, to me, those are all games that I'm going to have a hard time seeing the Jets take. And if they were to lose all those games, well, then that doesn't leave them with many wins left. Even the other teams in their division that I didn't name, the Patriots and the Dolphins, are better than them. So at best, they would split with those two teams. But realistically, I don't think they're going to beat the Patriots either time. So I just think this team is kind of the same thing I was saying with the Dolphins, but they're even more talent deficient than the Dolphins because they didn't make the free agency signings this year. They did address some of their needs in the draft, but none of the guys they drafted are good enough to make like an immediate impact. Like Mekhi Becton has a ton of potential. I don't see him being a Pro Bowl starting tackle as a rookie. I think he's more of a project pick, even though he does have immense talent. Denzel Mims, like who knows what Denzel Mims is going to be. I could easily see him being a complete bust and like a Laquan Treadwell type guy where he's off a roster in a few years. But he does have upside at the same time. But again, as a rookie, I just don't see him produce. And to leave Sam Darnold with his best weapon being Jamison Crowder, arguably, Chris Herndon, like you're just not maximizing a guy who really needs a good system and good weapons to produce, and he just doesn't have that. So I think this is going to be one of the worst offenses in the NFL. I think Adam Gase is going to get fired, which he probably should have been last year. And I think they're going to compete for the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So I don't have much faith in the Jets this year.
Yeah, totally fair. And just to quickly touch on that Sam Darnold note, I mean, we see those other quarterbacks from that loaded 2017 class. You know, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You know, some better than others, but they're all getting that help around them, whether it's on the offensive line or in the form of some pass-happy weapons. And, man, you got to feel for Sam Darnold. I really hope that they get it together for him sooner rather than later because his time's going to run out if not. So, It's a bad situation over there in New York for the Jets, but yeah, it's looking like a bottom seller year.